Welcome to another edition of the Nightly Nuge. And Ted, you obviously announced some very somber news. I think we ought to go ahead and just start the week with that. All my family's condolences to you and your family.
Well, we do the Nightly Nude because we like to maximize the positive as we fight against the negative and the evil and the nastiness and the criminality. And I have a great cousin named Mark Schmidt, who passed away last night, who I was shoulder to shoulder with, spirit to spirit with, Red Ryder, Daisy BB gun, slingshot, bow and arrow, shoulder to shoulder, heart and soul with. And he died last night after a quick year of dealing with a shocking cancer that infested his spine. So Mark Schmidt of Dearborn, Michigan, in the wind, he's still alive, which is the motivation, Keith, for both of us. We know we're getting older, and what are we leaving our children and our grandchildren? Mark has left a great legacy, as so many of our family and hardworking friends are doing, but the treachery in America today is creating something that doesn't look at all like working hard, playing hard, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness America, the Mark and you and I grew up in. So I want people to remember the name Mark Schmidt and the Schmidt family, because when I talk about the spirit of the wild, and if I ever attempt to get through the song Fred Bear again, I'll be thinking of Mark. And when I hit my tree stand this afternoon, Mark will be with me. But let that motivate everyone, realizing it's not about us. It's not about individuals. Even though we have God-given individual rights and freedoms as guaranteed and enshrined in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, it really is about the American dream for Americans. So let me just state on this wonderful day in October, as we're approaching the midterms, never has voting been more meaningful, important, vital, and critical in America. If we don't vote God, family, country, freedom, Constitution, Bill of Rights, Ten Commandments, Golden Rule, that work ethic that Mark Schmidt represented, and pretty much everybody at the Nightly Nude represents. If you believe in that, if you know that that is pivotal for the greatest quality of life in the history of mankind as we experiment uniquely in self-government as we, the people of the United States of America, let us know that the Nightly Nude is about spotlighting positive, while we also spotlight the cockroaches who are infesting our great nation with a lot of negativity, criminality, constitutional oath violations, and just treachery. So the name Mark Schmidt is in the wind, and he will be with me forever. As all of our loved ones, we must embrace that foreverness. And that means the future is critical, and it's in our voting hands.
You know what, Ted, you raise a great point. And this week, what I would like to do with you is, we know we're just 2 weeks away from the critical midterm elections. There's a lot of issues out there that, and I don't understand it, but there are people that are actually confused and not sure which way to go on these issues. And that's partly because I think they're getting their news from other outlets. And so this week, Ted, I'd like you to compare and contrast where the two major parties in America stand on critical issues. And this week, we're going to cover crime, education, the border, inflation, big tech, and the Second Amendment. And today, Ted, I'd like you to focus on crime. A study just came out this past weekend. All 50 of the top major cities, Democrat-run, crime is at an all-time high. Chicago alone, this past weekend, 50 people were shot in Chicago this past weekend. So to the voters out there that are listening to the Nightly Nuge, Ted, you see pretty distinct differences between the two parties' positions on crime. How would you break that issue down to the listeners and the voters, and what should they be thinking as they're preparing to cast their ballots next week? 2 weeks.
When it comes to crime, I can reduce it to the most simple and obvious primal scream. The Democrats have proven over and over again on all those exploding violent crime, engineered recidivism zones, that they reward violent criminals by letting them out, never holding them accountable. As the guitar player and the household leader of the Nugent family, my reaction would be, bad guys no can walk the streets. You're not allowed to ever walk the streets. If you stab or slice or shoot or carjack or rape or molest an American citizen in the United States of America, you are either double tap center mass by the proposed victim so that we don't ever have to worry about your genes continuing, or you're in a cage forever. I don't want rapists, child molesters, carjackers, murderers, and stabbers and slicers and cold cock murderers. I don't want them shopping with my family. The Republicans stand for law and order, accountability. The Democrats revel in recidivism. It's so glaringly obvious, it's impossible not to see this. So that's the choice come voting time.
You know, Ted, one other topic on the topic of crime is, for a long time, you heard the Democrats nationally and locally talking about defunding the police. You heard the Republicans on the opposite side of that. I think some of the Dems locally and nationally are walking that back a little bit. But before I let you go today, is there a comparison between the two parties when it comes to defund or fund the police?
Well, that's just one element of their overall criminal celebration. The Democrats celebrate crime. And when you reduce the sheepdogs, the wolves celebrate and the sheeps get eaten. If you want me to break it down to the simplest of terms, when you get rid of the sheepdogs, the wolves run the sheep herd. And that's what's happening in every Democrat zone. You can't defund the police. These are warriors for law and order. They serve and protect. Is there a rare occasion where a cop is a corrupt and defies his oath? Well, sure, and they should be held accountable as well. But overall, law enforcement heroes, they keep our streets safe and secure, and they safeguard good families, and they catch and get rid of bad guys. If the DAs and the prosecuting attorneys and the courts and the judges would just unify to keep bad guys the hell out of our neighborhoods. So the choice is so simple. If you like burning down cities and you like exploding carjacking numbers and murders and shootings and rapists like Chicago and Baltimore and Detroit and New Orleans and Los Angeles and San Francisco, if you like that, then by all means vote for Democrats. If you want safe neighborhoods where you don't have to worry about getting cold cocked by a guy who's been let out of jail after cold cocking people, you should vote Republican. It's so simple, it's stupid.
All this week, Ted, I'm going to encourage our listeners and our viewers to go to huntthevote.org, huntthevote.org, make a pledge to vote, make a plan to vote, and then go out to vote. Ted, awesome. Tomorrow night, I want to talk about education. I think we've got some clear choices there as well. Again, the Mark family's condolences to your cousin Mark, and we'll dedicate this whole week of the Nightly Nuge to him.
You bet. We have a responsibility to make this country great again, and it's pretty obvious how we can do that. So God bless everybody out there. In the wind, Mark Schmidt is still alive.